Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football and welcome back to the Winning Drive. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, pleased to be joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn C.J. Vogel, the young prodigy, and also our own football coach, the head football coach, former high school football coach at Burnet, Capel, Brownwood, Belton, Rotan, also played college football at Abilene Christian, coached there as well, and was on the staff at the University of Texas for multiple head football coaches. It's our own coach, Bob Shipley. What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
Just a beautiful day in the neighborhood, man.
No doubt. Hope it's beautiful wherever you are as well in Longhorn country, wherever you guys are joining us from. We appreciate you guys joining us. You guys know how it works with the Winning Drive. You guys drive the show any direction you want to. Super Chats jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time, but we'll try to address and answer as many questions and comments as we can. Thanks to all you guys out there. What's up, CB? Everybody who's joining us. They did have a player availability today. I mean, CJ was there to actually witness the player availability. Arch was speaking to the media as well as Trey Wisner. We have some cuts from Trey Wisner and Arch that we'll play for you guys and talk about what they had to say to the media. Also, we'll get into some recruiting news, some recruiting nuggets that CJ's got for you as well. And also, I want to dive into the they're doing player breakdowns or quarterback breakdowns, I should say, on Colt's new platform. Maybe interviewed Sark most recently. They're doing their quarterback breakdowns for this latest 2025 quarterback class, and they recently broke down and evaluated one Quinn Ewers, and it's Colt along with Jay Gruden. Breaking down Quinn Ewers. So we'll get into that too and some of the things that he had to say. But let's dive into it before we start and we'll hear from the players at the player availability. CJ, you were there on the spot. What stood out most? What left you wanting more or left you a little bit more curious from what you heard from Arch or Trey Wisner at the player availability?
Really, it was just how Arch Manning handled himself. That was exciting, right? You hadn't seen or heard a whole lot about Arch in these, media scrums, but he looked relaxed. He looked composed. He joked a few times, told Kirk Bowles he'll drip him out, and get him some glory and his new NIL sponsorship deal. So it was cool to hear from him. And of course, he's seen all the news, all of the media hoopla, everything that's gone on the last 4 or 5 months. He knows what's to come. So he also got to speak a little bit, Rod, and we've talked about it. Sark mentioned on Tuesday just the overwhelming, whether it be appreciation and the love from Texas fans, but also the boos on the road and what's going to happen when he throws an interception at home or he loses a game at home. How's that reception going to treat him? He said, yeah, I'm prepared. I know what's to come. My last name is Manning. I've played quarterback at the University of Texas. All of this compiled together. And I understand that it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. So that was really, really good to hear early on, this early in spring ball. He gets it. And I think that's a great positive for Texas to have that mentality already set from your quarterback. That's going to be your guy for the first time this fall. Yeah.
It does seem like Coach, he's pretty down to earth. I mean, he is a Manning, but he does present himself like a pretty good teammate, especially what he mentioned about Quinn. And basically, what was the CJ? You were there. What was the quote? Basically, it had to suck being if you were Quinn, having me as his backup. He admitted that, and that was a situation that had to be awkward with Quinn being the starter and having Arch Manning and the media hype behind him. So, Coach, I think he's extremely likable, and presents himself in a way where people can believe that he's humble. He's a Manning, but there's a humility to him, even as a Manning being part of the first family of football.
Yeah, when I think about, Arch Manning, the first word that pops into my mind is grounded, and to also be able to, say it's probably somewhat embarrassing for a guy, who's the backup to come into the game, and he gets much more applause and much more hoopla when he comes into the game to, just to finish off a game, just, get some scraps at the end of the game. And yet, he's the one that's getting, you would think he was the long lost starter who was injured and he's now coming back in. But so I appreciate him mentioning that fact that, it had to suck to be Quinn with all the hoopla that was going on. But he's gotten past that, and I give him an A+ in the way that he handled it. He was always, I think, honoring of Quinn and never tried to do anything to take the spotlight away from Quinn. But now clearly Quinn is gone and he's the guy. And again, I just love the fact that he seems to be a grounded person who knows his limitations. He knows that there's going to be some up times. He knows, and he's prepared for the down times as well. As much as we'd like to say, no, he's not going to lose at home. Are you kidding? He's not going to throw an interception at home. I mean, this is a Manning. No, he's grounded. And those are some things that I really appreciate about him. Like I said, number one, I just think he's a very grounded person, and hats off to his family for not filling his head full of a bunch of, egotistic thoughts, and, all that stuff. Don't forget who you are. You're a Manning. No, you're a player trying to make his way through this, who carries a heavy burden of carrying the name. Thankfully, he's got the ability maybe to live up to that name.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. He's saying all the way there. I like that term too, Coach. Grounded. That's a great way to put it. All right, let's hear from Arch. We got a little bit of audio from the player availability. So let's hear from QB1 for the Longhorns. Here's what he had to say. Matthew, could you dial that up for us, please, when you get a chance? Arch Manning talking about a number of different things, but one of the things he did talk about was how it was worth the wait for him to the 2 years, and of course the hype behind him that was worth it. He really wanted to be the starting quarterback at Texas. I think that the wait was kind of the test for him, that patience. But yes, here's Arch Manning at the player availability.
Your first spring as kind of the starter. How's that going for you so far? A couple weeks in.
Good, feels good. We got a good team, a bunch of good guys, so I'm excited to start taking some more of the 1 reps.
Arch, how much time did you spend prior to this year going to some of the guys, who are now coming up here, the Aaron Butlers, probably Spencer Cannons? Did you spend a lot of time with them when you were QB2 and QB3?
Yeah, I live with Parker and a bunch of those guys. When you're the backups, you spend a lot of time together in practice and getting those reps, so it's cool now. We're all running with the ones.
Can it be overstated, or just the importance of you got that game experience last year and you got a lot of experience, more than just a random backup? And how does that make the transition smoother?
Yes, sir, definitely. Anytime you can get game reps, that's just such a help, and I'm really glad I got to play in those games.
What was the biggest thing you learned, do you think?
Just, the speed of the game. It's also a good way for me to play in front of people, in front of 100,000. So that was definitely the biggest thing for me.
Arch, in hindsight, how much did Quinn try to help you over the last 2 years just to get you comfortable and get you ready to go now? Yeah,
Quinn's been great. I was just with him this past weekend at Hayden Connor's wedding. He's just been so good to me over the years. It's probably pretty annoying having me as the backup, just with all the media stuff, but he handled it like a champ, and he was so good to me along the way.
Do you think it's annoying with all the media stuff?
Yeah.
When it comes along?
For sure. Sorry.
Just really be like, of course it's annoying. With all the media stuff. Did a little joke with the media, like, Beck, you guys are annoying. Just letting you know. Definitely knows how to handle himself and knows how to handle the media. And does a great job. He's already got some quotes that you can tell he knows his constituency. He knows who he's talking to. When he was asked about waiting his turn, he said, it was tough. It's tough in this day and age. I hope it pays off. There's nowhere else I want to be. I want to be at Texas. I have friends here. I love this place. I wanted to be the quarterback here. Sometimes it's worth the wait. So there you go. Grounded, like Coach says. Worth the wait there. All right, let's one of the things also he brought up, he mentioned Parker Livingstone. And apparently, CJ, I know you know Parker Livingstone really well. So he's got a new nickname that was revealed today too. Parker Livingstone's got a nickname. What's the nickname? Or is it just Trey Wisner using that nickname?
Look, it might just be Trey. Jeff Howell and I talked about it earlier today after we recapped the media availability. Hey, we got to wait till Arch kind of puts his stamp of approval.
That's what I was going to say. I was waiting on Arch to say it. If Arch would have dropped it in, I'd be like, oh, there you go.
Look, he lives with them. So hopefully this is what they call each other inside the house, right? But white chocolate. is the name for Parker Livingstone. So I like it. If it's coming from Trey Wisner, you did something to earn that. 100%.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, Coach. I mean, it is a thing when you're the roommate of the starting quarterback and you're also playing a wide receiver position. You got some experience with that. So, man, maybe the Parker Livingstone hype about him being in the circle of trust is him being the roommate of Arch. Does that give you more optimism that he will indeed be in that covered circle?
Yeah. There ain't no doubt. And Parker is going to be open every play.
Yeah.
Tell him about it every night.
Yeah.
You know? So it certainly has its advantages. As long as it doesn't turn into, the Chris Sims deal, with Ricky. I mean, as long as everything's cool in their relationships, then no, I think it's fun, and I think it's stuff that they can throw back and forth to each other. I know Colt and Jordan did that. Colt would talk to him from a quarterback perspective. Jordan would talk to him from a receiver perspective and what it looks like from his angle. And I think it's going to be a great combination. And this offense is so versatile. Back in the late 2000s, we when Quan graduated, there wasn't another guy that was the caliber of Quan on that football team. And so 2009, we had Jordan and a bunch of young guys.
Yep, I remember that.
The great thing about this situation is that you're going to have great level Quan and Jordan type guys all the way across the board. And so it's really going to give him some availability as long as, but I promise you, having been around receivers my whole life, pretty much, they're always open. I mean, they may not look open, but in their mind, they're open.
I was open. Yeah.
Coach, have you ever seen the tweet that's gone around for years and years and years? And it's just, how players at certain positions on the offensive line go about like handling the social media side of things, right? It's always the captions of what they post on social media. It's the quarterback is, I love competing, like praise be to God. Running back is, I got to get, the family, in a new house. And it's tight ends is like dirt. They're just there. You got wide receivers where it's always just like the enemy of my enemy is the guy with the knife behind my back. And it's like, what are you talking about?
Divas, man. They're divas.
Receivers got that extra juice to them. So I'm with you. Unless that chemistry just falls off a cliff, I think you're going to see something really special this year with Parker, with Arch, adding in Wingo and DeAndre Moore. That's really the three. And then, of course, you got some really, really talented youngsters that are each finding steps to improve each day in spring. We're through 8 practices right now. There should be a little bit of a scrimmage or some live hitting this weekend as well, as Texas hosts a lot of visitors. So let's see what we hear about these young guys, because overall, a lot of positives with this wide receiver room, even without Wingo and Moore.
Yeah. And, Parker didn't really get a lot of hoopla when he signed with Texas. I mean, he was kind of under the radar type guy. His dad told me when they went in and visited with coach and did the whole deal. The NIL was never brought up. It was never brought up. It was not a factor in Parker's situation at all.
Wow.
But which is a little bit different than probably most recruits, because they want to know what's their income potential going to be. And Parker never mentioned that, and they never mentioned it to him. And that will come with success. It will. But I think, when you've got the ear of your roommate, when, it's time to go to bed and he's in, I don't know if they have bunks or whatever, but, you go, hey, you remember that play in practice today? When the safety did this and the corner did this, man, what were you thinking? it was a huge gap there, And the quarterback's got to say, there's 4 other guys I'm looking at out there, plus a running back,
Hey, but you ain't roommates with them, no. You ain't.
That's right.
They ain't roommates.
Hey, the roommate knows, by the end of their careers, he'll know where all the skeletons are buried, so to speak.
Okay.
And so he'll have some stories on. Hey, listen, man, unless you want me to tell that story about that girl who said she didn't care who you were, she wasn't going out with you, you better throw me the ball unless you want that story out there. I'm just joking, but I can imagine those type stories.
I was gonna say you're just joking, but it is true. You know where all the bodies are buried when you're somebody's roommate, especially back then. Trust me. That's why. Hey, my guys who I lived with Sims for a while. I lived with Kenny Hyder for a while. Lived with my man Ahmad Brooks for a little minute too. Oh, I got all the dirt, but it would go to the grave with me. That dirt will go to the grave with Rod B. You can be damn sure about that. Yeah. All right. Let's thank our first sponsor before we move on and talk about what Trey Wisner had to say and take some of your questions as well. Thank our friends over at My Athlete 360, ladies and gentlemen. Opportunity, innovation, and focus. All right. All of them combined. The future of youth sports is here, and early adopters are already winning with My Athlete 360. For coaches and trainers, My Athlete 360 is your gateway to growth for yourself and the organizations you represent. Showcase your expertise and connect directly with families actively seeking your skills, all without expensive marketing costs. For parents, we bring trusted athletic opportunities right to your fingertips with customizable filters for age, sport type, and budget that will match your child with the perfect coach or trainer. Whether you're a coach building a thriving business, a volunteer coach looking to bring new kids into your youth organization, or a parent seeking quality training, My Athlete 360 makes the connection simple and secure. Don't miss out on the platform that's revolutionizing youth sports development. Download My Athlete 360. That's My Athlete 360 today, and you'll get that competitive advantage that awaits you at My Athlete 360. We appreciate them. You can scan that QR code actually right there on your screen as well, and you can get hooked up with My Athlete 360. We appreciate them for being sponsors of the Winning Drive and being a part of the On Texas football family. All right, let's get to a couple of questions here, then we'll go back to the Trey Wisner comments and get some recruiting nuggets in there as well. How about this one from Casey? It's for you, Coach. He said, in your Shipley experience, Texas should Texas pursue the kicker from Texas State, Mason Shipley? I got you there, Casey. Good job. I don't know if that's kinfolk or not, but what do you think, Coach? Should they pursue a kicker in the transfer portal? I saw CJ. I saw you tweet about that.
32 of 35, 31 of 34, something like that. I don't care. I don't care if his last name is McGillicuddy. Sign it.
That's pretty good rate if you're making field goals at that spot, Coach. I think those 4 that he's missed, 3 of them over 40 yards. But other than that, I mean, pretty nails within 40 yards. That's it. Again, Texas has been struggling just about every distance over the last year or so. So I'll be interested to see if Texas goes after him just right down the road in San Marcos.
Yeah, I mean, man, you would hate for, kicking issues to cost you games 2 years in a row. That'd be a shame considering how close Texas has been. But maybe if they don't go after him, then they're just believing Bert Arman's going to either bounce back or that, that they'll have a healthy competition and whoever wins that competition will be up to the task. I wouldn't leave it up to chance. I would go get him. If I could upgrade, Sark's always saying if he can upgrade, he's going to go upgrade. He did mention in the portal they're going to look for wide receiver, D tackle, and tight end. But he said he's just not going after bodies. He said, yes, they have some scholarship number issues at those positions, and they want to be, obviously at a certain number at those positions, and they're not ideally. But he said, I'm going after impact players. Man, it's hard to say that someone's going to impact the game more than a consistently good kicker. So.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, he is from Liberty Hill, right down the road from Vernon. I don't know if there's any. I don't know if there's any blood relation there or not. My family's from Forney. From my daddy grew up in Forney, played football at SMU. They moved there from Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina. So I don't know if there's any relation or not. But like I said, I don't care what his name is.
McGillicuddy?
We need him.
I like McGillicuddy.
I like that.
McGillicuddy, that's right.
I don't think I've ever met anybody with the last name McGillicuddy. Now that Coach said it. All right, let's get to super chat here from It's 420 somewhere. Thank you, It's 420 somewhere. Really appreciate that super chat. Says Rod, heard y'all talking about Manning is going to have a bad game. Everyone has one. What was your worst game at Texas? Ooh, and what play still haunts you from your time at Texas? Oh man.
That's a tough question.
That is a good question, man. I had
you gonna bring back that PSTD or whatever it's called.
I had some stinkers. I had worst play for me was I gave up a deep ball early on in the blowout loss to Oklahoma in 2000. Remember Andre Woolfolk? Remember him? He was like a first round pick. He ended up being a first round pick. At DB.
Is that the guy that like went into a coma or something?
No, not him, coach. But I will say he was like a first round, ended up being drafted like first round as a DB. He beat me like on a deep route, on a deep fade, a deep nine. And it was like it was probably their first big play of the game for Oklahoma. And then from then on, guys, it was just a downward spiral. Like everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And we got whipped. I mean, Old Testament style butt whipping. It was an ugly, gloomy day too. I always blamed myself. You give up something like that, and then the dam breaks open. And I felt like I was part of the dam breaking. I felt like when I gave that up, the momentum shifts in that game are just so drastic and extreme. I feel like they took the momentum then, monopolized it, and they never relinquished it. And I kind of blame myself for that. That was, I mean, if they had to march down the field a little bit, how that's, you don't just gather momentum. Like you have to go like take it. You got to go steal it with a big play or a big series or something. And I felt like I gave up an easy one, and and I gave up that easy one, and that really sparked it. So that's the play that stands out to me in a loss. That was a bad one. I had a couple of, and I got a bad game against like an Iowa State one. It was like, I won't say one of those Iowa State years. I ran about a bad game. I got beat once in the A&M game, upset me a lot. It was what was it? Maybe my junior year, maybe in my sophomore year, actually. It might have been my sophomore year. That I got beat in the A&M game. I got like 3 or 4 plays that stood out to me.
You always remember those, huh? They always linger with you.
They suck. I mean, that Oklahoma one, I remember it to this day. Just bad technique. I mean, it wasn't even a great route. It's terrible. Just no focus. Just me. Just a bad play. Lazy feet. I went back and watched it, over and over again. That's the one that stands out to me. It's 420 somewhere. It makes me sad. I blame myself on that one. Also blame myself, and this is because not that I played bad. That Texas Tech loss we had in 2002. We had all those injuries. Nathan Vasher goes down. Caleb Thornton goes down. I want to say Derek Johnson got hurt in that game. I mean, we had like 4 starters get hurt in that game. And Wes Welker went off. We've talked about this game before. I should have went to Coach Aquina because Coach Aquina would have let me do it. And so I'd been like, hey, let me get it. We were playing man-to-man most of the time anyway. That's what they was getting us on. Man-to-man, he was running all these, crossing routes and all these rub routes and stuff like that with him in the slot, that kind of stuff. And I should have told Coach, go put me on him. Because a lot of our young DBs were on him because he was in the slot working all the time. I should have manned up and should have just said, no, I'll take him. Coach Aquina would have let me do it. I played nickel. I knew how to do it. And not saying got to shut Welker down. I ain't saying that. I think I would have given us the best chance for us to make a play against them and get a few stops. That was on me. I got to live with that. That's on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are moments you got to step up. You know what I mean? Say something. If coach says no, at least.
Moment in my career where I had to call 1-800-YOU-SUCK, try to talk to a counselor to get me off the cliff.
Yeah. So I
mean, it was more like Angelo State against Abilene Christian, not OU in Texas. It was like
still
8,000 people in the stands. But
still, though, you remember it though.
I remember it. I sure do.
Yeah. Thank you. It's 420 somewhere. It's a good question. One that's depressed me a little bit, but it's a good question. Texas Chick 01 says, Rod, did you get that DB you had for Coach Aquina yet? I have not. I did tell him I was going to get him one yet, though. I'm going to take care of that. I'm going to get that done. Yeah. So I plan on seeing Coach Aquino sometime soon, actually. So I will get that done. Get him a DBU hat. Hell, somebody might already get him one, honestly. He got, I mean, Quandre's been up there, was up there a ton. And, Huff Daddy's still up there. So I'm not the only member that can get him a hat, but I will get it done. I'll make sure he gets one. Thank you, Texas Chico One. Texas Boy Wonder. He says, are you guys going to scout some spring games this weekend? Oh, that is good. Question. Yeah, we got, you know what? Texas Boy Wonder. I'm going to get a list. I didn't think about that. I need to get a list of Texas opponents and when their spring games are, and we'll get that done. And
I got a pretty good one here on this upcoming for 2025. The schedule that Texas has. Florida, Georgia, Oklahoma, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt are all this weekend. Arkansas is next weekend. So, hey, a pretty good preview of what these teams will look like next fall coming up this Saturday. Of course, Texas will be what we believe to be a scrimmage, trying to up the physicality a little bit. This Saturday, they're going to host a number of recruits. Of course, the coaching clinic is Friday and Saturday as well. So, busy weekend on the 40 acres. But I'm sure some of those guys inside the facility will be watching, trying to pick up on any type of tendencies or just personnel, I guess, is really the main thing you can take away from a spring game. So, but that outside of that, Tennessee and Alabama, 2 additional spring games I'll be keeping an eye on, or at least try to rewatch on Sunday before moving into the next week.
Oh, which ones you said were this weekend that Texas plays?
Florida, Kentucky, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Vanderbilt from their SEC slate.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right. The ones that I really want to see, because I don't know if, the teams that have their starting quarterback, I don't know how much those guys will play. You know what I mean? Like your returning starter. Like, are we going to see a lot of DJ? I would love to see a lot of DJ Lacroix. You think we'll see any of DJ Lacroix? Like a lot of them? Maybe
John Mateer, another one.
That's who I really want to see. Oklahoma's quarterback, the one that transferred from Washington State with his offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle. I want to see him because I've heard he's had a hell of an offseason. He looks really good.
I want to see what that offensive line looks like at Oklahoma because last year, PU was it bad.
Yeah. No, and the skill positions were terrible. That's one of the worst offenses in Oklahoma football history. It was actually one of the worst. Yeah, Ohio State quarterback situation. That is good. Texas Boy Wonder says, I want to see how Ohio State's QB situation is. Yeah, that's one they said it was close and neck. I think the last time I checked. But that's one also we should be paying attention to considering Texas will start out its season versus Ohio State. So thank you, Texas Boy Wonder. Good stuff there. All right, let's get back to the player availabilities, guys, and talk about Trey Wisner. We'll get back to Arch's comments as well, because I know folks who might have joined us a little bit later. We started out the show talking about what Arch had to say to the media. But CJ, you were there, and you heard from one of the leaders on the team, and one who's earned the trust of the coaches and that locker room, Trey Wisner. Is there anything that Trey Wisner said other than revealing the nickname of Parker Livingstone, White Chocolate? Anything other than that he said that was compelling to you?
Well, I mean, we can talk about the competitiveness in practice. We'll talk about that here in a bit. Trey, of course, I'm sure has his, he's tilting the scales on the offensive side of some of his chirp, and he's a competitive guy. But look, he mentioned this offensive line. I asked him, I said, hey, you got a brand new group up there aside from DJ Campbell. How's that looking like? And, there are a number of names. He said, I love what NATO's looking like. He singled out Brandon Baker at right tackle as well. But my goodness, and I hate to beat a dead horse here, but we just continue to hear about Nick Brooks. And look, that's one of the big freshmen that's really standing out so far. The 3 guys that he mentioned, again, really, really encouraging in terms of first-time starter and Brandon Baker at your right tackle spot, first-time starter with Nato Umeozulu at your left guard spot, and then what's going to be your flex tackle, your third tackle with Andre Kojo, Nick Brooks, and to do so in 8 practices, catching the attention of Trey Wisner, who's only ever run behind NFL offensive tackles. That's an encouraging fact there. So encouraging there. And then one other note I'll pass along from that is he said, look, James Simon looks really good. And I talked to Jeff Howe about this on the recap of the player availability. James Simon gets really small and tight spaces and is able to squeak through. For a guy that's a little bit bigger, right? He's pushing about 210 right now. Do that, keep his feet and keep the vision. That's really that's a strong positive, I would say, this early on in his career. So we'll see how that continues to develop moving forward the rest of spring. But early on, big time compliment on that regard.
We'll play some audio from Trey Wisner, especially the cut you mentioned him talking about the offensive lineman. But, Coach, how about this? I was hosting Coffee and Football early this week, and we had they have Tony Hills on, the 10-year vet, lifetime Longhorn, and he was talking about his offensive line play. And I'm always fascinated by it. Like you said, you learn so much about football because that's just not where I actually spend a lot of my time and have a lot of my knowledge. He says that Texas is going to be more athletic at tackle now after Cam Williams and Kelvin Banks are gone. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I appreciate his optimism. Maybe he's been at practice. I have not been at a practice, so I can't speak to that. But he's a guy who knows talent when he sees it.
That's what I said.
Even at the NFL level. So that fires me up, because if he's saying that, that's pretty high praise. I mean, I'll have to see it to believe it, but coming from him, you have to believe it because he's been there. He knows what it takes.
Yeah, he said that. He didn't say they were going to be better. He just says athletically. He's just talking about athletic profiles. He said they're more athletic. I'm with you, because I was like, ooh, man, I got to take your word because you know more than me. But that is a hell of a statement to make, considering you might have just lost a first and a second round tackle.
Yeah. On Trevor Gooseby specifically, we heard from Arch kind of, patting him on the back, talking him up a good bit today, saying, hey, that's my blind side protection. I need him to be good. But he also said, look, good basketball background, right? He's got the feet, he's got the hand-eye coordination. 6'7", what is he, about 315, 320 right now? Still dunking. So talk about the athleticism on that end. That's a big positive for Trevor Gooseby and what's expected to be, or what could be, a big money year in terms of headed off to the draft after just 1 year as a starter.
And that's kind of what he referenced to with the basketball. I talked to Trevor, and Trevor Gooseby's he wears it well. Like that weight. How much you say he weighs, CJ?
About 315, 320.
And he looks like he can easily put on 20, 30 more pounds. Like
no kidding.
It just lays on him really well because he's so long and so rangy. But no, I like his attitude too as an offensive lineman. Like, he's a guy that's got kind of an appetite. He's appetite for excellence. And I think he's just tapping into the surface of his potential as a player. So, yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on that, Coach, because I remember it stood out to me. And I was like, man, I've been thinking about that ever since Tony Hill said. I was like, more athletic. And he said the run game should reflect that. They're gonna start having these tackles doing more things athletically in the run game. So we shall see. We know Tony Hill knows his stuff. Let's hear from Trey Wisner. Can we get the cut that CJ was referencing there, Matthew, the one about the offensive lineman? He actually talked about the offensive lineman that had been impressing him so far, and he knows he's got to run behind these guys. Here's Trey Wisner from the player availability earlier today, talking about the offensive line standouts in the spring.
Definitely, I'm going to say Nato and Baker, for them to not get as many snaps last year as some of the other guys. They definitely came into this spring with a chip on their shoulder also. So from up front, they definitely showed the most improvement in me.
Yeah. So it's encouraging that you're starting to hear some of those other names of young guys stepping up. Sark was very complimentary in his media availability earlier this week about some of the young guys on the offensive line. That's definitely one of the biggest storylines coming out. Trey Wisner also talked about something I thought was interesting. He talked about the trash talk that's been going on. It's a new little. I like that this is I didn't hear a lot of. I mean, I'm sure the guys were talking trash because I heard the DBs were talking a lot of trash last year. Remember, I think you brought that up, CJ. That the DBs were bringing the juice last year, which no surprise. The DBs talk a lot of trash. What we do. It's good to hear that now. Arch Manning's the one bringing the juice. We heard about Arch Manning trash talking the defense a little bit. And I believe we have a cut of Trey Wisner talking about that a little bit too, which is interesting because I like that dynamic. And Trey Wisner also said that he needs a tad more with the younger guys. That they
a little bit more energy.
Yeah, he said that. He said the locker room coach has got a little bit more energy, more pep. And I thought last year was a kind of a hype team considering all the talent they had. But I guess the young guys, you know what I think it is, Coach? They hungry.
Oh yeah,
they're hungry. You got young guys who they ain't proving a damn thing. I think they're just hungry to prove it. So I think that's what's going on. I think that's what he's feeling in that locker room that maybe you didn't have as much last year because you had a lot of vets last year, guys who had already established themselves. And once you establish yourself, you've got a different energy about you.
Yeah, that's
man,
it.
When you're hungry trying to prove it, it's a different energy too. I think maybe that's what's going on. A lot of guys trying to prove themselves.
I think that's exactly it, Rod. It's a lot of guys who have waited their turn, and now that it's their turn, they're trying to put their fingerprints on what this team will be, right? We'd heard about, some of those big-time leaders on the defensive side of the ball. Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, Manny Muhammad, Michael Taft. Those guys have all played with chips on their shoulders. I know you got 3 of those guys essentially coming in as 5 stars or really highly recruited guys, but really, really talented guys that all won state championships, right? Duncanville, Denton Ryan, South Oak Cliff. They know what it's like to win while also being the guy at their program in high school. Well, now that they had the idea and the time to step into a program that wasn't necessarily theirs, yet they were still big parts of it. Now that they're the older guys in that room, they're saying, okay, we know what it's like to come to practice and work hard every single day, but we also know what it's like to be the guys and come out with some swagger and some juice. And so that energy is, it's infectious. And to hear that from Trey, to hear that from Arch, to hear that from Sark even, I love it. And again, I always go back to, one of the stories you told us way back ago. Back in the day, DBs got their own little chant. You got the boys getting together. After every play, someone's jumping as high as you can to go get the high five with one another after a PBU or something like that. That's great because what does the offense hate seeing that, Coach? Exactly that, right? I can't imagine there's a single wide receiver in the country that likes seeing their defensive back celebrate like that. So it's just going to continue to drive. So I love it. And again, knowing Trey, knowing some of these guys on the offensive line, I know DJ Campbell's in there getting after it, right? Cole Hudson at center now. The 2 of them are not going to let an Alex January get the best of them or a Cole Brevard. And then you throw in the nastiness of a Nato Umeozulu. Yeah, to be a fly on the wall for some of these practices, I bet they get pretty going.
Yeah.
I've got I've got a little bit different take on that, and that is, people say, hey, you can't listen to the negative stuff. You just got to focus on the positive stuff. But once you get at that level where you're a starter and people are talking about you and they expect a lot of things, you still have to keep an edge about you because if you don't, you'll become complacent. Mm-hmm. So what are people saying about me as a player? I'd want to know. I want to know what they're saying because I'm going to prove them wrong. So continuing to have a chip on your shoulder and not, I remember, Rod, I don't know if you played with guys like this. CJ in high school, you probably played with guys like this. Once they became a senior, their personality kind of changed. They kind of thought, okay, I'm going to do the hazing. I'm going to make, these guys respect me as a senior and whatever. And that's not how you respect somebody. You gain somebody's respect by going out there and working your tail off like somebody threw gas on your hair and lit it on fire. That's what separates the good ones from the great ones. The guy that can have a chip on the shoulder. And I would always tell them, if you don't have a chip on your shoulder, you manufacture one. Somehow you manufacture one because you have to have something that drives you to greatness. And the great ones always have that. They always have that doubt in their mind. They're not good enough and they have to continue to prove themselves. And when it's all said and done, you look up and you fought all these battles and you're on top.
Yep. Hell, Michael Jordan is still talking about the high school coach that cut him at his Hall of Fame speech. It's like, you're the GOAT. Why are you carrying that? Just what Coach said. That's why he's carrying it. He's gonna always carry it. It's got that chip he would keep on his shoulder. No, good stuff there. All right, so let's hear from Trey Wisner. This time talking about that trash talk in practice, the juice that Archie Manning's bringing to practice, and some of these younger guys are bringing to the team.
And something I seen was from our first live practice. It was a bunch of yapping back and forth from defense to offense. That's them type of things you need at practice because it shows like the competitiveness between players, and we love that.
I love it. I do. I remember those are some of our best, and we got like that around 01, 02. because I don't know if the team was that confident in 2000, but around 01, 02, we had a lot of guys who knew that they knew that they were among the best players at their positions in college football, and some had already proven it, someone ready to prove it, but they also knew they were competing against other guys who were going to play in the NFL. And we knew that. Now, listen, if we can bring out the best in one another, compete at the highest levels, the games will be easy for the most part. Not all of them, but we're competing against better talent than we'll see in the games a lot of the times. So we got to turn these practices into it's got to be a truly uber competitive environment, as competitive as we can get it. We got to juice it up as much as we can. And sometimes it get too juiced up and guys get into fights and coach got rid. But I think coach would rather that it's so juiced up that guys are getting into it rather than. And coach, you've been there before. I don't even know what you do when it happens. You ever in the middle of practice or into practice realize, oh no, this is a lame practice. This is a lame. Guys are going through the motions. Guys going through the motions out here, man. Guys are just, you know what I mean? Like that, like you said, like you're supposed to be out there like your hair's on fire. Right? Like you got something to prove constantly. And then guys just kind of going through the motions and you realize it. And that's up to the list. I remember guys stopping practice and either throwing a temper tantrum, starting to fight, trash talk. I remember a guy once, I won't say what, went up to Coach Brown. I was like, Coach Brown, you got to do something about this practice, man. It's a lame ass practice we in right now. So we competing for championships. This is not championship caliber practice. And then background was started over. The whole thing over. Started all over. We're on period 3. Started over. I don't like the attitude. I don't like it. That I think is also something that the trash talk helps with. Because there will be those practices where it's just feels like, man, everybody's kind of going through the motions? Like, where's the emotion? Like, we're just going through the motions.
And I would have to imagine it's right around this part of the spring where you start to get some of that complacency. Maybe after your first scrimmage and you get back out on a Tuesday or a Monday right after, and it's like, okay, I can take a step back. And, for some of the young guys, they're probably just like, hey, I'm just glad I made it through the first scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you got those guys like an Ant Hill, like a Colin Simmons that are driving forces, a Michael Taft, I'll tell you what, none of those guys in the secondary will ever have an off day if Michael Taft is present at practice. That's just who he is. I've been there a number of times during like those little media availability windows where they're doing nothing more, Rod, than just, practicing, like getting out of their breaks, right? Backpedaling drills, cutting, T-steps, etc. And it's Michael Taft, the one that's saying, hey, do that again. Get back there, make sure that you're getting to depth and making sure that your plant foot is hitting 90 degrees. Like, make sure that the little things matter. So that's what keeps me optimistic about this group is, you could talk about maybe the complacency coming, but with this group and what I know about an Anthony Hill and what I know about a Colin Simmons, I don't know if they're going to be okay with that. And that's great. Trey Moore, even throw him in that mix too. Yep.
Guys who know how it's supposed to be done. They know the level of intensity that it takes to compete for a championship. They knocked on the door and they know, even Sark said it, we got to take it up to another level based on what we did last year. Those guys' accomplishments, their achievements are not our own. They earned that as a team. We hadn't earned it yet. Now let's go get it. So I'm with you. I think they got the leadership necessary to avoid that kind of malaise. All right, let's hear from Trey Wisner a little bit more, guys. He also was asked about, he's got a new coach in that room, right? That we talk about that running back room maybe in terms of position rooms in the country and how they are perceived and how they are kind of ranked among the other position groups around the country. The Texas running back room has to be one of the most prestigious rooms historically and currently. All right, considering the coaches and the players and the guys getting drafted out of there. So here's Trey Wisner talking about the new coach who took over for Detroit choice, Chad Scott, and how he is kind of building his own culture in that room.
Just for him to come in and step up from the place that Coach Choice left us at. Coach Choice was a great coach, great man. He poured a lot into us, and just see Coach Scott come in and kind of just sort of fill them shoes. He's his own person, own man, so he coaches different from Choice, but he's definitely a great coach and a great man.
And Coach, what's the biggest challenge if you're a new coach coming into a room like the Texas running back room? Like what I just described, like historically, it's one of the greatest position rooms in the history of college football. Currently, you can make the argument it's the best running back room right now in college football. Like it's up there. What's the challenge coming in as a new coach with that history and that mystique?
Well, I think trust, is very important. The guys have to believe in you, but the way they believe in you is they see that nobody's going to outwork you and that you really want to help each one of those guys reach their genetic potential, and so you bring the juice every day. We used to tell our coaches, don't expect the kids to go out there and bring it every day if you don't bring it every day. The energy, and the enthusiasm and, just that aura that you want about your group at practice and your group in the meeting. And so, he's got to win their trust, and that'll come with time that, okay, yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. He can help me reach my goals and my dreams. And so you have to kind of balance between, I've got to make you the very best running back I can to fit our scheme, but also at the same time, in doing that, it will help you reach your dreams on a personal level to get into the NFL if you just listen, and do those things and trust. And I think he's one that, it won't take long for the guys to trust him from what I've heard.
Yeah, no, he's got a very impressive resume, and but it means just to me coming into a room like that, it's you got to treat it a little bit differently, I would think.
Yeah, you can't dote on him. You can't dote on him. You got to go in there and lay it down and make everybody earn it again. The worst thing you can do is treat Baxter and a couple others on a different level than you're treating everybody else. Everybody wants to know that you're going to be fair. And if I'm an NFL prospect, I want to know that I want to be coached hard. I want to know that I'm going to be pushed to reach my potential and to reach whatever level I can genetically get to. This guy's going to help me do it, and he's not going to do it by being my friend. He's going to do it by coaching his tail off for me and making sure that I'm doing everything the right way. And there ain't no, we always say that we don't reward pouting. There's not any pouting that's going to go on here. Yeah, you had a great year, but are you there? No, you're not. So listen to me and let's get you to where you want to be. And I won't reward pouting. So if you want to pout, you go over there and get you some tissue and pout. We're going to stay here and be champions.
I like that.
Like that. Sounds like coach to me. All right. Thank you for that, coach. All right. We'll get back to, we got a couple of more pieces of sound. Actually, one more. We got one more piece of Trey Wise sound. Let's hit that real quick. This one's talking about Arch's leadership, I believe, and something that Sark has mentioned, how, he players gravitate towards Arch, that he has, a great kind of leadership ability, natural leadership ability that players are responding to. Here is Trey Wisner talking about Arch's leadership skills that have been on display this spring.
Arch always, even from when we first enrolled, Arch always had that leader mindset, just knowing how great of a player, athlete, and a person he is. So, his leadership role definitely stepped up a bunch this year, but he knows that, and he's taking full effect of it.
All right, there you go. Archie's leadership. Yeah, I mean, Sark has talked about it multiple times. And, listen, he is from the first family of football. Quarterbacking is their family business. And quarterback, I've been really good friends with a starting quarterback. There is a certain way you got to carry yourself. There's a certain way you need to represent the team. Coach, there's a certain amount of responsibility. You have to spend time with the entire team, not just your clique and not just with the offense and the receivers. I remember Sam saying, oh man, I gotta go hang out with the linebackers and the D linemen. Like it's, that's that everybody wants a little bit of your time. And he knows those nuances about playing quarterback, about representing himself a certain way, being a leader on the team, holding others accountable, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not surprised that he's been right now seen to be an excellent leader. I'm not surprised by that at all. Matter of fact, it's what I expected from Arch Manning. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to let's thank one of our sponsors, and then we'll move on and get some of the questions here. Also, I want to ask you guys about this Colt McCoy, Jay Gruden evaluation they did. They're doing all the quarterback prospects coming out in 2025, but they actually were able to do an analysis of Quinn Ewers and get you guys' thoughts about that. But first, let's thank our friends over at South Point Dodge. Texas football fans, you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including a great selection including a great selection of Jeep Wranglers, 2025 Jeep Wranglers, all new, folks. You can get the real deal today and drive away in the Jeep Wrangler, a vehicle built for adventure. Plus, right now over at South Point Dodge, they're going to give you a great deal. You're going to get employee incentive pricings. That's right, folks. Employee incentive pricing. You pay what the employees pay there at South Point Dodge. Now, that is a real deal. You'll get the employee discount with our friends at South Point Dodge. They're going to treat you like family. That's exactly what you are with our friends at South Point Dodge. Go see them off of I-35 in South Austin, or you can go online and visit their website at southpointdodge.com. You can see their exclusive inventory there as well. Get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge and employee incentive pricing. Don't forget that. It's the best deal you're going to get. You get the employee discount with our friends at southpointdodge.com. All right, let me ask you, CJ, you were there. Did Trey Weissman look like he had put on some armor? Did he look a little bigger?
Yeah, I wanted to ask him that. I didn't get to. He maybe, I couldn't tell you, definitively. Yeah. I know it was weird looking back at whatever the roster had him at. I think the roster only had him at about 194, but it would have been about an 8-9 pound drop from what Shard Choice told us he was playing at in the college football playoff. But I think he's hovering right around 200. I think that's a good weight for him. And, he said the one thing for him that he was proud of last year was his ability to play physically and play hard within the tackle. So hopefully that'll be the case again in 25.
Yeah. No, I can see him probably putting on weight last year because he became basically a lead back. He became, your workhorse back last year in a lot of situations. He's the only one that earned the trust of the coaches. I can see him coming in a little bit lighter this season because the workload should be a little bit lighter, maybe a more specialized to his skill set. All right, a couple of questions here before we move on. How about this one for Coach? He said, Coach, can an interior offensive lineman not be athletic but still be a solid player at this level?
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, how do you define athletic?
Pretty much, yeah, basically.
I think probably the position you can get away with it the easiest in terms of being not as athletic, they're all athletic, would be the guard position.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have help from the center. Occasionally you'll have help from the tackle. But that would be the only player. If you're gonna be a center would be the next one, but he still needs to be very athletic. Back in the day, we used to put our best athlete at center,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it's changed, and now they put him at left tackle. They put the other big guy at the right tackle that can move, and you put your pluggers at guard, and you put a pretty athletic, smart guy that can make all the calls and not make any mistakes at center. And that has to be obviously a very consistent player, a player that's very emotionally and mentally strong, mentally tough, because you may have a bad snap once in a while or whatever, but I don't know that we have any what I would call non-athletic at this level on the offensive line that we're planning on playing. But you can put a lesser athletic guy at guard and still get by, especially if he can come off the ball with a flat back and move people off the line of scrimmage. You don't have to be as athletic to do that as you do to pass off a guy and pick up a linebacker that's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff there, Coach. Appreciate the question. Getting back to the questions, David Keith Williams, DK Dub says, Rod Babers, I may have asked this before, but I'm interested in your view. Do you think the talent in the 2025 secondary is comparable to that of the 2005 secondary? Man, I'm going to say right now, just off top, I'm going to say not comparable. Man, because I just don't want to disrespect 2005. I mean, you had Huff Daddy, and Michael Griff. That's 2 first-round safeties. Had another corner that wanted Thorpe the next year in Aaron Ross, but Terrell Brown was one of those, right? He was your other corner in that 05 secondary.
Was Shockey one of those too, or was he after that?
He was after that, I think. He was after that. Man, I just I'm gonna say that the overall 2005 just had better man coverage defenders, number one. Because I don't know if these guys now, the guys they're recruiting can play a little bit more man. We shall see. And I think they just had better ball hawks right now overall in 2005. Like those guys, Griff went out. Griff was a ball hawk. Huff was a ball hawk. Went out to Aaron. I mean, everybody at secondary would make plays on the football. I don't know if they got many of those guys. They may have more last year actually than you'll have in this 2025 secondary. I'm trying to think who your best ball hawks in this secondary. I think Jonah Williams is gonna be one whenever he just, that guy's got a chance to win a Thorpe. He's special.
Yeah.
Kobe Black's got a little bit of it in him too. Some ball hawk. I just think that 2005 secondary, man, they had great ball skills, and those guys were ball-oriented DBs. Like they went after the football. I think that's what they have.
I'm excited to see what Cade Phillips looks like. Because
good.
Rod, I think he's got that desirable frame at cornerback, and we've been hearing his ability to make plays on the ball. I don't know if those are interceptions or PBUs, but early on, he's had that knack for turning around, finding the ball and making a play, kind of in that same breath of some of these guys that we've talked about in terms of just having that innate, find the football and make a play. We'll see what he continues to do, but early on, positive.
Yeah. I mean, I like Jelani McDonald, and he's freakiness at safety, but, man, I just don't know if you get better than Huff Daddy and Griff at safety. They were all interchangeable, too. I mean, I've talked to Mike Griff about this. He was like, no, they literally would switch free and strong themselves on the field. Just based on the formation. They wouldn't be flipping siding like, nah, you can play the strong, you good. You do that. I'll play free this time. Like they were that interchangeable. And it was because of their IQ, and they just knew conceptually the defense so well.
DK's always bringing some good questions, Bam.
That's a good one. It is a good one.
But the reality is we won't know. We won't know until next November. Probably.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't even know. I think some of your best guys that DK Dub, we could be talking about, the Cade Phillips and the Jonah Williams, those will be in like, a year, 2 down the line. And then we'll look at that secondary, I think, a little bit differently too. Because I think they're gonna start stacking some 5-stars in that secondary, different positions too. But I like the young guys they got bringing in, man. I really like the young crop of DBs. The last 2 years, they've really tried to overhaul the DB position and bring in the types of that. Even Sark said that as media availability. He said it's the best looking position. He's talking about cornerback. He was like maybe the best looking position, and that's because of the guys they brought in recently. But I like that question, DK. I'm not going to disrespect Huff Daddy and them. And
they've earned it.
They've earned it. So in terms of comparing them, I don't know if there's a lot of in terms of strict comparisons to the 05 secondary, but I do like these guys though. But I hope we make it. We're having this discussion again, like Coach says, in November. That'd be great if we compare them to the 05 secondary. All right. Let's get back to it here. How about this one? What did last season's defense end at in Longhorn history? Says Bevo Hookem Reasoner. Top 5, top 2. I think it's definitely top 5 all time. The only argument against it, and is that we would get really particular here, would be they played some dog-ish quarterbacks in offenses. They just did. They played some horrible offenses. So you're going to look at like the 08, 09 defense and stuff like that. They played way better offenses in the Big 12 back then.
Yeah.
And this past defense did. That to me, that's the argument against, and that's, you can make, you can make that argument. I'm not making that argument. But if you want to play devil's advocate, you could say, man, who did they play? And as soon as they played good quarterbacks, what happened? Good quarterbacks made some plays against them. Not a lot of plays, but still made some plays. And would they have been, elite all season long if they played 2 or 3 decent quarterbacks like they did in the postseason. That would be the argument against this last year's defense being a top 5. What do you say, Coach? All time.
You talking to me, Mufaso?
Yeah, talking to you.
You kind of cut out on me.
I'll say what?
I'm with you. I say top 5. I don't know that I would say top 2. I mean, you go back in the 60s and 70s, and you look at those cats. I mean, offenses were totally different, but playing against who they had to play against and the way they had to play, with the wishbone or whatever it was, even the veer, and then, you get into the 80s and the run and shoot and all that stuff. It's just really hard to compare apples to apples. But I would put them in the top 5. I don't know that I would say the top 2, because there's been some really, really good defenses through the 60s, 70s, and maybe 80s, but more in the 2000s.
I did this in all of my disorganization here. I can't find my list. I ranked the great defenses in Texas football history, and I had like a top 10. And yes, my 0-1 defense, we found our way into that top 10. 0-1 defense was a nasty defense. It was really good. I think last year's defense was probably better than our 0-1 defense. But our 0-1 defense was really good. Yeah, I think the argument that I would make against why they would be top 5 is just, did they play? How many elite offenses did they play? They just didn't play any. It's just terrible offenses they went up against, right? CJ, they play when Cade Klubnik played them. That's what a good. I think we all said this too. I remember saying, guys, they're gonna make some plays because he's a good quarterback, and they ain't played a good quarterback yet. They're in elite defense, but they ain't played a good quarterback. Turns out he also had 3 NFL wide receivers to throw to, and Texas defense, wasn't exposed, but he made plays against that Texas D. Now, right.
Look at Arizona State, right? Not just a good quarterback, but a really, really good running back. Texas didn't face a lot of those guys this year. So, it makes sense. But at the end of the day, it's not like they allowed a lot of teams to run up and down the field, right? So they took care of their business, and, they certainly were able to benefit as a result of not playing the strongest competition. To your point, though, I wouldn't say there was many NFL caliber guys that were running around the field at quarterback last year against this Texas defense.
This next season will be a much more difficult schedule in terms of the opposing quarterbacks they'll face. The quarterbacks will just be better. Oklahoma's quarterback, we just talked about John Mateer. DJ Lagway, you'll actually play him instead of him being injured. The quarterback from A&M, Marcel Reed, he should be better. The quarterback from Arkansas, he's returning. He should be a little bit better. So you'll have several returning quarterbacks, veterans in the same system returning, right? Diego Pavia has been in that system now, 3-4 years? Because that's the same system that they ran when he was at New Mexico State, right? You have a lot of, when you face quarterbacks who've been in a system for a long time, they're just a certain comfort level they have, and they know all the ins and outs. They know the loopholes of the system, and a lot of times, they can just kind of make plays, especially if they're a competent quarterback.
I'll add this from Jet Rodriguez was Diego Pavia, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That guy's a player. He's not. That's not the scheme at Vanderbilt. That's just a dog. And you get a dog at quarterback when you recruit a 2-time state champion wrestler. That's just the kind of mentality you get. So no, I would say he's more the player there than the scheme.
I agree with you on that too. I was impressed with Pavia because not a lot of quarterbacks made plays against that Texas defense, and the dude went out there and made some plays against that Texas D. All right, before we move on, let's thank another one of our sponsors, our friends over at Vaughn Lane. If you tried flying, you've probably tried driving to all the major cities in the great state of Texas: Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, and you realize now it can be pretty stressful traveling between those major Texas cities. Let's face it, flying is a hassle. Security lines, packed gates, delayed flights, all for what? Just an hour flight? That's not worth it. The stress levels, it's hard to recover from that. And if you try driving, you know it isn't much better either, because you got the same day round trips, whether it be driving to Houston or Dallas, or between Dallas and Austin, emails piling up, calls going unanswered, work left undone, all while trying to focus on the road with traffic jams. Why waste the day when you can stay connected and productive with Von Lane? Von Lane changes everything. It's luxury regional bus travel, what some call a private jet on wheels. Sink into a plush leather seat with a leg rest. Stay connected with complimentary Wi-Fi. Enjoy complimentary snacks and drinks on every trip, plus delicious meals on select departures. If you need to freshen up, indulge in hot towel service. And if you want to relax, you can just relax with an eye mask or pillows, blankets. The Fun Lane team takes care of every detail, so you can sit back, relax, unwind, and enjoy the most comfortable travel experience on the road today. Business travelers, you can recapture your productivity, and leisure travelers, you can sit back, relax, and get pampered by the Von Lane team. And if you're planning a special trip, guys trip, gals trip, bachelor party, bachelorette party, football game, concert, or a special event, you can charter your own Von Lane coach for the ultimate group experience. Von Lane is first-class travel without the hassle. See for yourself. Visit vonlane.com, VONLANE.com. Use the promo code OTF25 for $20 off your first trip with vonlane.com. All right. Getting back to the questions. I know we're taking a few more questions before we get to the end of our live stream. It's 420 somewhere. Thank you for the super chat. He's got another one. He says, what do you think are the adjustments Akina has had to make since coaching at Texas that continue to make him an elite coach? Oh, that's a good question. What does he have to tinker with? I imagine that the type, like maybe the mindset of the young people changes a little bit with NIL and transfer portal and all that kind of stuff. So, maybe he tinkers with his approach. But the fact that Coach Akina sells helping you reach your ultimate potential, the best version of yourself as a DB, which ultimately will get you to the league. I don't know if he needs to change much. I mean, his resume speaks for itself. The 50 DBs, whatever he's put into the NFL. So maybe he's a mindset. I think because he likes to coach a lot of man-to-man. Now I know, that he can teach any type of coverage, but man-to-man matches up the best with RPO schemes. This is why Texas wants to play more man-to-man. It's the best. It's the best counter against RPO-based offenses and RPO-based passing games. So he can teach man-to-man. Maybe he'd have to just kind of think of like the where the coverages have evolved to. So maybe just teaching more coverage. He's been a safety. He's probably brought in some more 3 high looks since then. I think that's maybe something that's a little bit new. But Coach, what do you think? I don't know if Coach Akina's had to change much, but a coach has to evolve. What do you think Coach Akina has had to adjust and evolve as a coach?
Well, the game has evolved, since 2010 or whenever his last season was here. But he's been coaching this entire time.
Yeah.
And so he's obviously evolved with the changes in secondary. Secondary, there's more, matchups and combos and weird coverages now that you didn't really have before. But I'm sure he's on the cutting edge of that. And, I think, what makes Akina a great coach? His energy, his enthusiasm, his motivation, wanting, you can see his heart. He wears it on his sleeves. He wants you to be the best that you can be. I'm not worried about adjustments in scheme. He's got that. It's just him being himself. Just be yourself and do what you've done for decades. And it's just a really, really fun time to have him back in the secondary, especially the talent level that he has coming into this year and will continue to gain as he's able to recruit based on the godfather of Texas and DBU.
Mm-hmm. He's got the reputation. Like I said, it's the sales pitch to be easy for him in recruiting because he's got so many guys on his resume that have played in the league. And these guys, if you play DB, you know about some Coach Akina defensive backs in the league. And like Coach says, yeah, man, it's not like he stopped coaching. He's been coaching. He's 68, and you heard the Stevie Lee story that Stevie Lee was trying to lead practice, and he just saw the corner of his eye. This big, long, lanky dude sprinting across the football field at 68 years old going, stay there, stay there. Like, coaching kids got an energy level that you just don't expect from anybody in their 60s. And I don't know where he gets it from, but God bless the man. Texas will be the beneficiaries of it. I assure you that. Kitty is just cutting edge. He cuts the edge. You damn right, Jack. He's all edge, man. He's all edge. But thank you for 20 somewhere. We appreciate that super chat. Naaman Roberts says, Rod, I have a hot take. Jonah Williams will be the first Longhorn to win a championship in baseball and football. Ooh.
Did Street do that?
I was going to ask, did James Street do it? I don't know if baseball won one back then. I know, he won football. I got to go. Did James Street win a baseball championship? Can you look that up for us? Because, if he would be the one, and I'm thinking about 2 sports stars that have won it. Yeah, I know Keith Moreland played both, but I don't know if Keith Moreland was on a team that won a championship. I'm trying to think about players who played football and baseball and won a championship. That's a good, I don't know. I got to go do some research on that one. All right, Name Roberts, hot take. I like that. Some people are now saying baseball is going to win a championship before football.
Could happen. It could happen this year. Number 2 in the country.
Yeah, they got Longhorn baseball fans feeling real. I mean, they got some swagger right now. They're feeling real confident. And Schlosser's been doing a great job. Coaching matters. Coach, you know that. It does. So, but yeah, it's good take. Good take, Naaman Roberts. I said that the kid's good enough to win the Thorpe. That's one of my first things I said when I watched him. I said he can win the Thorpe one day. He's that good of a player. He's a hell of an athlete too. All right. Well, yeah, I don't know. So I don't know if James Street I don't know if he won a baseball championship, guys. So my man Naaman Roberts is right. Could be the first football national champion. I don't know if he got a baseball championship. Oh, yeah. But did he get talking about national? He's talking about national championship. We talking about conference championships.
Yeah.
He didn't win a championship. I thought we were talking about natty.
We don't talk about conference championships around here, man.
So I think he's talking about natty. So in that case,
Naaman knows what he's talking about.
All right, we'll bookmark it.
He's right. I think he's right. That'd be a great feather in Jonah's cap for sure.
Honestly, that would be. I mean, we're talking about in the next couple of years then for Texas winning. I mean, the Arch years, right? I mean, that's basically what we're talking about, winning a championship during the Arch years. I think Longhorn fans. If you had to poll Longhorn fans, how confident they are this, and they shouldn't be this confident, but I think I'm just kind of feeling out Longhorn fans talking about, Arch now taking over as a starter. A lot of them feel like Texas is going to win a national title in the next 2 years with Arch as starting quarterback. I would say 90. We got like 85% of Longhorn fans feel like that. I feel like that.
Yeah, I do as well.
I feel like that.
I right in that range, 80-90% route. I think that's probably fair.
Yeah,
and that's not being unrealistic. Some years it's probably, look, I'm a Cowboys fan. I know all about coming into a season with unrealistic expectations. For Texas this year, it's not. And for the next 2 years, really, with Arch Manning, knowing what's already on campus, on the roster, and what's coming in, yeah, it's the expectation almost.
All right, one other quick story before we get out of here. Ian Rappaport reported earlier today at Rap Sheet that former Texas wide receiver and current NFL draft prospect Isaiah Bond turned himself into the Frisco police last night for a matter related to an outstanding warrant for sexual assault. Frisco PD told the Insiders. That was from Ian Rappaport.
Yeah, pretty unfortunate.
He posted bond and it was released. I threw it out there. Sorry, CJ. Go ahead.
There's a statement that's since been released from Isaiah Bond as well. Quote, regarding the accusation made against me, I would appreciate the time and opportunity to defend myself and prove the claims made patently false. I'm in full cooperation with authorities and will remain a willing and active participant in the investigation. Unfortunately, claims like these proved to be harmful to all involved, absent full review. I kindly request that all reserve judgment until the authorities provide a complete report-based on truth and evidence. So unfortunate, of course, not what you'd like to see from a former Longhorn 2 weeks ahead of the NFL draft, but we'll wait and see what the investigation concludes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that update on that, CJ. Let's thank our last sponsor of the evening, and then we'll end the show. Did you know the most awarded wine in Texas, ladies and gentlemen, is actually the vineyard closest to Austin? That's right. Flat Creek Estate Winery, just minutes from downtown Austin, and they won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Now, Super Texan, one of my favorites, actually. My wife loves it. Her mom loves it. We enjoyed it actually over the holidays as a family. It's now available at your local Spectrum. They also had a display of Flat Creek wine at our local Central Market here. So I was really happy and pleased to see that. The good word is getting out about the great wines at Flat Creek Estate Winery. Of course, Flat Creek not only producing some of the best premium wines on the market, but also is a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. Perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. Actually, we had a member of the Owen Texas football family get engaged out there at Flat Creek Estate Winery. So no matter how special the occasion, our friends at Flat Creek Estate Winery, they can accommodate your every wish. So we appreciate them for being sponsors of the Winning Drive and also being a part of the Owen Texas football family. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of our sponsors this evening, actually. Thank you to Von Lane, vonlane.com. Use that discount code OTF25. You'll get $20 off your first trip with Von Lane. Thank you as well to South Point Dodge, southpointdodge.com, My Athlete 360, and our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Wine, flatcreekestate.com. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate all the wisdom and the great knowledge. Thank you as well, CJ. Great job, as always. And Matthew behind the scenes. He is the real MVP, so give it up for him, folks. If we missed any of your questions, I apologize about that. If you missed any questions or comments, please direct them to the gentleman at Coffee and Football tomorrow, starting at 8:15. Also, we'll have your live stream, your Friday live stream tomorrow. And that'll be at 1 p.m. So you don't want to miss that. Anything breaks in between that, keep it tuned here to Owen Texas Football, OwenTexasFootball.com. For Coach and for CJ and for Matthew, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis. Until next time, hook 'em horns.